Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird, it's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies.
Unless you have never left the Republican bubble, watching that clip made you feel that Democrats are like parrots repeating one catchphrase after another, and perhaps you're right, but I'm here to tell you that calling conservatives weird is probably the greatest political move pulled by the Democratic Party since 2008, and it will most likely cost Trump the election. And here's why. The word weird is both a pejorative and a description of what's uncanny to see in a social setting. Being weird turns other people away from you. Say you eat pizza like this, or you're at a party and find yourself constantly talking about a topic that nobody wants to hear, or you feel the need to show off your masculinity, thereby signaling that you're insecure about it. Consider a situation in which a father and a son are monitoring each other's internet usage to ensure that they are not watching pornography. Now, that would be called weird, at least according to 69% of Americans, but let's think what else is weird. Can a political position be weird? The answer is yes, and at this time, it is the Republicans who find themselves on the receiving end of it. If you look at the graph that is right in front of your face, you will see what I mean, because regardless of what is your stance on abortion, you cannot deny that just 14% of the population believe that J.D. Vance's stance on abortion is not weird. 14%. Now, I'm already expecting the Republican response, which would be like, hey, wait a minute, are we being called weirdos by the same mentally ill people who prey on minors, do drugs, have constant sex, believe in white privilege, and yada yada yada? I mean, yes, because if you consult with polls, just 37% of Americans believe that Democrats are weird, even though objectively they are, at least in their personal life. But when it comes to the public perception, it is the Republicans who are on the receiving end of it, for half of Americans consider them extreme, creepy, off-putting, strange, and yes, weird, while a majority of Americans views Democrats as normal. And as the country has been moving further leftwards, this conception of reality is making more and more sense, for even Republicans of today began to view the Republican Party as more weird than it used to be 10 years ago during the time of Mitt Romney and even before that, John McCain. So, why is this strange discrepancy in public perception, you may ask, given that Republicans are after all the party of family, of law and order, of social conservative values, of stability, are suddenly losing the image game to a party of queers? Well, the answer is simple, because the left controls the media, the entertainment industry, and the academia. Their lifestyle and the definition of what is normal has become integrated into the public consciousness, thereby becoming the standard, while Republican rhetoric not so much. In fact, it has pushed further to the extremes. You see, at the end of the day, it's not a fight of lifestyle versus lifestyle, but rather a fight of optics versus optics, which frames the public perception of things. Let me have the media explain it for you.
Harris has run a remarkably focused and disciplined campaign, one that seems deliberately light on substance and high on feelings. You don't see the dozens of policy papers that were a hallmark of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. Harris has not yet given extensive interviews or done press conferences, which would force her to detail her positions on specific issues.
And we have an election to win.
Instead, she has introduced herself to the American people in entirely human terms. presenting herself as a dynamic, warm, funny, and optimistic person.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
It's heavy on vibes, and so far it seems to be working. Her running mate pick follows the same pattern. She chose the governor of a bluer state, but one who projects an image that has resonated throughout the country. A folksy, affable, kind-hearted man. The Tim Walz pick reminds us that sometimes EQ is as important as IQ. This is a turning of the tables. Watch Tim Walz's video during his first campaign for governor, giving voters tips on how to fix a burned-out headlight harness with an $8 part. It's hard to imagine Barack Obama doing that.
We vote with our feelings and we judge rhetoric based on optics or the source of where it's coming from. That is, whether a person making an argument is high or low on the social dominance hierarchy. So for example, when a chat cell is talking about white replacement, he's being easily dismissed as an incel freak that he is, but when Elon Musk does the exact same thing, everyone begins to listen to him very carefully and become red-pilled in the process. Same thing here. It's not simply that Republican positions are widely unpopular, which they are on a lot of issues. It is that widely unpopular Republican positions being advocated by a weirdo freak like J.D. Vance make them even less popular, while otherwise popular Republican positions become even less appealing than they were before because they are being advocated by J.D. Vance. Why do you think everyone hated the so-called SJWs on YouTube before massively embracing their ideology at around 2020? Well, because the ideology stopped being advanced by clueless Gen Xers and millennials on BuzzFeed and some other clueless mainstream journal, and instead began to be advocated by a much more appealing and slightly less cringe-worthy breadtube.
Daddy, can I have some meat?
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Oh, Daddy.
I mean, sure, we can dismiss them as a bunch of degenerates outright, but at the same time most of society will dismiss rightoids as a bunch of creepy chuds, because unless you live somewhere in a village, the behavior that is manifested by BreadTube is broadly normalized across the Western world, and while drag does indeed appears kind of off-putting, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz aren't the ones doing drag. It's J.D. Vance who does, or at least he used to, multiple times, though I bet he's still doing it, but behind closed doors. So it's not the Democratic Party's fault that Republicans have nominated arguably the most weird and record unpopular VP ever.
It's a negative net territory. Look at that, -6 points. I will tell you, Aaron, I have gone all the way back since 1980. He is the first guy after immediately following a convention, a VP pick, who actually had a net negative favorable rating. That is underwater. The average since 2000 is plus 19 points. J.D. Vance making history in the completely wrong way.
The Democrats have simply found a golden opportunity and are now exploiting the shit out of it. Let me quote you one of their posts that I managed to find on Reddit. We need to bully these fucking weirdos. We need to remind them that they are fucking losers. We need to destroy any amount of self-confidence they may have and put them back into submission. They think it's okay for them to go around spouting their weird shit in public. Back in high school, they would have been mocked and ridiculed and bullied relentlessly, and there would be no way for them to escape it, so they would learn to keep that shit to themselves and not bother other people. But now, when they're adults and think they can do whatever they want, we need to show them they're still fucking losers. The ultimate goal is to bully them so hard they are afraid or are ashamed to vote, or even better, bully them into self-deletion. We need to get these weirdos out of the ballot boxes, that's how we win. And let's not pretend that they aren't right or that they've chosen the wrong strategy.
It is the weirdest thing to me. Democrats say that it is racist to believe. Well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday, and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good. I love you guys.
What was weird was his talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick compared to J.D. Vance is de facto the king of Riz. Just see it for yourselves.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I gotta tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, see what I did there?
Kamala Harris and her running mate are the equivalent of a popular kid in high school, while J.D. Vance is an equivalent of an autistic lonely incel who now is pretending that he's actually Tim Walz while he's not. And people can see that.
Tim Walz makes a difference. I mean, this is somebody I know from my years in the House. You couldn't ask for a more real guy. I mean, he's the guy that J.D. Vance pretends to be.
His weird way of coping with all of this is by projecting and calling Tim Walz weird 24/7, but it's the same thing as an incel calling a child weird. It just doesn't stick.
And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home.
And not only because J.D. Vance is a weirdo who can't help himself but be cringe, but also because a lot of people can see through him. They can see that he does not have any coherent principles, because he adopts the political attitude of the people he surrounds himself with and then projects it to others. Think about it. He started off as a communist, did drag and thought that he was gay, then used his rich friends and morphed into this weird hippie rightoid populist never-Trumper who supported trans rights, married an Indian woman, and called Trump America's Hitler.
He said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
But then somewhere in 2022, as soon as he ran for Senate, he suddenly started changing his rhetoric and drifting closer to Trump, according to his lifelong trans friend, and now he's supposed to be this based Catholic Chatsel reactionary who will enact the 2025 project, send women back into the kitchen, drink Mountain Dew, spread his legs, and improve the demographic situation of the country, even though Donald Trump couldn't be any more clear that they aren't actually doing that. No, none of that is ever going to happen, because he's fake and gay, literally fake and actually gay. Everyone who isn't coping can see that and identify the Republican Party with its leadership. I don't know about you, but I cannot find a better word to describe all of this than extremely weird. And because people vote not on policy but on feelings, get ready for our political establishment weaponizing these public opinion polls in which it will be gradually revealed that the Republicans are the party of weirdos, and you wouldn't vote for a weirdo now, would you? The truth is that they have hit a nerve, and it's just the beginning. Given words like creep, mean, nasty, stinky, and others will begin to be gradually introduced to define the political landscape and may even replace the old overused words like racists, and these words will be used disproportionately against conservatives, as you would expect, to shame them out of their conservative beliefs by presenting them as low status or socially deficient in other regards. It can only be pushed back by a status-damaging equivalent, but before we do that, we must ensure that the beliefs and behaviors of our opponents are indeed associated with low status, which is hardly feasible on a collective scale without enacting a long march through institutions, which is unfortunately not what the present rightoid establishment is trying to achieve.
You know, you're really beautiful.
The spoof was filmed 16 years ago when Giuliani was mayor of New York for a charity dinner, so it was all in good fun.
Oh, you dirty boy, you! Oh,